everybody. I'm sitting down again with Adam Hartley, and today we're going to talk about manifestation and what that entails, what could be blocking it, and how to go about this whole thing. So, Adam, welcome back, and well, yeah, let's kick us off. What do you think about this whole manifestation thing?
Right. Well, thanks very much for having me, Hugh. It's always a pleasure to talk with you. I always think lots of interesting things come up out of our conversations. I was
Yeah,
always very much looking forward to doing this again with you. So yeah, manifestation, very interesting topic. And if you look on the internet, it's absolutely everywhere. Everyone wants to know how to do it, and everyone's got a solution and all this kind of thing. Um, and it's one of these things that for a long time I've actually avoided or thought, that's not important. I'm more interested in the higher spiritual things rather than the manifestation side of
Mhm.
things. I was all, you know, very much up there in the clouds and all that kind of thing. But then I actually started reading some books about it and looking at it, and actually realized that it is a core part of why we are here. Okay, and if, on a spiritual sense, I mean, and it's about it's about co-creating with source, as to use the expression that some people use. And that's basically the essence of what we think here to learn is this whole process. Now, I always get the impression that many people, they want to know about manifestation so they can have shed loads of money and have live the rich life. Okay,
Mhm.
and that's part of the thing which I thought, it's not for me because I'm not about that. You know, um, but it is the essence of why we are here, and it's really, really important. And once you start to grasp these principles and see them acting in our daily life, once you actually see it happening in your life, you really start to understand what spirituality is really about. you know. But there's some really key parts of it which I'd really like to explore further. And because it's full of pitfalls, manifestation. Because the idea is that superficially, okay, so I want lots of money, so I just think like I want lots of money, and I act as if it's there already. So I think, thank you very much, and I imagine myself doing stuff with all this money and stuff like that. And then, hang on, where's my money? you know, all that kind of stuff. And it doesn't actually work like that. Okay. And one of the crucial bits about it, which is actually a really fundamental spiritual principle, is to do with this idea of acceptance. And this has been a personal journey for me for the last 6 months or so. That every time I ask for guidance on anything, it always comes back down to um, acceptance of whatever the current situation is at the moment. Okay. Um, and there are so many layers to this process, and it works on so many layers. And I just as a starting point, I'm a therapist, as well as various other things, and we all know that in therapy, in order for you to want to change some issue or some block, the first thing you have to do is actually completely accept it as it is, in order, to make the change. And it's a paradox. So you have to accept what you're trying to get rid of, and then you can get rid of it. And the reason for this works on many levels. So on a psychological level, if you're pushing away this thing, oh, this horrible fear, it's trauma, I really don't want to go over, then you can't engage with it in order to fully feel the feelings, which is the key to releasing the emotional block. Now, however, it actually works on all levels rather than just the therapeutic level, including the manifestation level. And the key aspect of it is, if you are pushing it away, saying, I don't want this, then that is a manifestation. It's on some level, it's a affirmation that I don't want this. And it in fact will create the very thing that you don't want. Right. So in order for you to have for you to experience not wanting something, you have to be in it and trying to push it away. And this is one of these great paradoxes. And it's saying, like, on a manifestation level, oh, I want lots of money. The universe just says yes to whatever you say. So if you say, I want lots of money, it says, yes, you do. You want lots of money, which means you don't have any money. Because if if you had lots of money, you wouldn't want lots, And it's one of these things is that you got to be so careful about what you are trying to do, because the very act of trying to do that pushes away the thing that you're trying, it is in itself a manifestation at a deeper level. And this is one of the cornerstones. And one of the things I've been learning is about, in order to make change in my life, is about completely and utterly accepting where I am right now, with all my hang-ups and limitations and limiting beliefs and inabilities to do things and what have you. It's completely accepting that and making it really okay. And then when it's really okay, that's, if you like, it's a manifestation. It's an it's basically saying this is okay. And that is a brilliant manifestation, because everything flows from it. And,
Mhm.
this is the key to it all. And it's the thing about it is, it's almost like not something you can do, in quotes, because if you're trying to do this in order to get money, so you're saying, okay, I know I'm going to accept not having money completely, and then I'll get lots of money. There's still a layer there, which is,
Yeah.
I'm wanting lots of money, but it's just, you pushed it deeper down, and it's really about completely letting go the idea of wanting money at all and not caring about it, that actually brings it in. And this is something I have found in my life. I've been a freelancer working on various things like, finance, and I have my own software business and things like that for a long time. And having work or not having work has always been, an issue for me. And I'd fret about it sometimes, worry about not earning enough money and things like that. And then a while ago, I thought, sod it, I'm not going to worry about it anymore. I've never been busier. Honestly, I've never. It's just insane. I'm almost too busy, and that I realized that what is going on is I am in a state of not worrying about money. That is a manifestation. That's a vibration, if you like. That I don't have to worry about money because, well, I've got so much of it, and that is how it works. You really got to let go of a thing entirely in order to make the space for it. So then it's naturally attracted to you. You've got to stop caring, and then it comes to you. And it's really paradoxical, and it's really sort of hard thing to do. Now, there's another whole layer to it, in that it's not just about doing that, but also if you have limiting beliefs, unresolved issues about money, like we all have, then those are like subconscious affirmations going on all the time. And one of mine for many long time has been not deserving to have money. And it's like a little loop playing in the background. I don't deserve to have money. And so you can say, "Oh, I'm attracting all this money as much as possible," but there's part of you, which is contradicting this quite severely, and that tends to block the flow. So part of the whole process is actually doing your shadow work, doing your alchemy, as it were, and sorting out your issues, your blocks about this. And by clearing those and then letting go the desire completely for it, then that actually allows it to happen. So it's such a subtle process, but it does, as I said, it illustrates the whole principles of spirituality on a practical everyday level. And that is the bit I love. I don't care about the money side, quite frankly, which is why it works so well. But it's a really important aspect of spirituality, is the whole manifestation process, which I hadn't really appreciated until I started recently on this whole journey. So that's what I was
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
say in
No,
a
that's
nutshell.
that's
But there's a lot to dig
that's a lot of
into
good
there.
points. Excuse me. So would you say that, I mean, at least for me, I feel like the whole thing about money is just kind of like getting on the vibration of abundance in general. Just maybe not focusing so much on the money, but getting into that. I've been reading some Saint Germain texts, and he talks about, like, you know, becoming the I am. You are a piece of the source, so you should be able to create whatever you want, and just getting into the vibration of, abundance in general. I think it's very important. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. I mean, it's. I'm still learning about this whole idea of vibration, and I've very much got into Bashar. I don't know if you know him. This
Yeah.
channeled, yeah. So,
Yeah.
and he's always talking about vibration, and basically, when you're vibrating at a certain frequency, you will naturally, irresistibly attract things of that
Mhm.
same vibration to you. You don't need to do any manifestation; it just comes to you. And so you're absolutely right. If you are vibrating at the level of abundance and having everything you want, then that will happen. It'll just flow to you. It's like iron filings to a magnet sort of thing. So yeah, and you're absolutely right. And but the thing is, trying to do that in order to
Yeah.
get money is a really hard thing, and it's is really about letting go. And and also the thing about money is it's almost like it's frozen flow, if you know what I mean. So, I talk about in the flow state where stuff comes to you and stuff goes from you, and people talk about being in the flow. And when you're in the flow, in fact, again, Bashar had this wonderful quote that um, abundance is having what you need when you need it,
Mm.
which is
Mhm.
brilliant, right? And when you sort of start to dig it deeper into that, the thing about money is having a pile of stuff in your bank account that you don't necessarily need at the moment. And what it gives you is a sense of security,
Mhm.
right? And that's why people like money, because it makes them feel secure. But what they're really after is a feeling of security, not a feeling of not having lots of money. And so the secret to manifesting money is just to feel completely secure
Mhm.
in your
Yeah.
current situation. So, but what I mean is about money being frozen flow is that in the flow state, which is like what Bashar's talking about, then stuff comes to you when you need it, in the flow. So like you need to go on a trip, and lo and behold, suddenly you get exactly what you need for that trip. But if money on the hand is that frozen in a sort of, you know, you can use it when you need it type of thing, but it's slightly less, you know, it's I'm not saying we shouldn't try and manifest or create money in our lives, but it's 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 almost more magical not to need to do that, but just to trust that you'll get what you need when you need it.
Yeah, yeah. So I
That's
mean, with manifestation, the whole that naturally brings up the law of attraction, right? So
mm,
what do you think that people maybe are doing wrong with the law of attraction that is preventing them from
good
actually
question.
manifesting?
Right. There's a guy I really like. I can't remember his surname. But his Instagram channel is Julian himself. And he's a coach and he's very good. And he talks about um law of attraction. And he says, you see all those people, they're going to those seminars time and time again, and it's always the same people, and they never get what they want. And he said the reason for that is because they're really messed up people. And what he means by that, what he means by that is they've got a lot of unresolved baggage that they're carrying around with them. Now, what I said about we have these unresolved stuff, which are manifestations going on in the background the whole time. If you believe the whole time that you don't deserve to have money, then you can do the law of attraction stuff till you're blue in the face, and it won't make any difference. And this is why it always comes back to you have to do the shadow work. You have to,
Mhm.
do the work. And all this stuff, well, I don't care about doing the work. All I want is the money, so I'm going to manifest now. You won't get there, you know. And
Yeah,
the
yeah.
truth is, the true magic in life is not about accumulating huge amounts of money necessarily, although that can be magical, but it's about doing the work and liberating yourself from a lifetime and many lifetimes of emotional stuff you've picked up, and
Yeah.
that is where the joy and the light and the love and everything really comes, that's what it's really all about. You don't
Yeah,
need
that's
else when you
that's a
when you
hard
stop.
one to
Yeah.
that's a hard one to get people to understand though.
Mm, it's I
So
I
yes.
I have this saying which I trot out to anyone who will listen, which is um, doing work on yourself is the single best thing you can do for yourself, because the benefit lasts the entire rest of your life.
Mhm.
There's no better payoff for that work than anything else. It's
Yeah, probably several lifetimes.
Well,
afterwards.
absolutely. The truth is actually, it's many, many lifetimes. It's yeah, you have to do the work. That's what it all boils down to.
Yeah, so I mean that's a really good topic. So maybe we can dig into that. Like, what are some things that people might need to overcome? The first one that pops up for me is like the the fact that money, the way that money is created through our signatures, right, is kind of a really dirty trick, and so people kind of get wrapped up in that. Money's dirty, money's done, used for all these dirty things. I mean, at the same time, it can be used for good things too, and it can be used
Mm.
to sustain your life. So, what could people start thinking about in terms of that?
Yes, money is a really big thing in our society. I mean, it's a huge thing, right? To the point it becomes all consuming for so many people.
Mm,
And we have so many beliefs about it, and they're endless, but it is really worth exploring them. Like, for example, only, you talk about people being filthy rich, which is the connotation there that it's filthy somehow, or it's dirty, and that people who are really rich are somehow immoral, or they've got it through immoral means. And for sure, you only got to look around at all these oligarchs and things like that, and you've got to question how some of them got their money. And it can be done extremely immorally, but it can also be done extremely morally. And but we tend to have a belief that having money, it can have an immoral taint to it. And there's also an idea about having too much money,
mm.
and it's I find myself uh succumbing to that as well. Is I think, oh, I mustn't shouldn't have too much.
Yeah, same here.
Why? But we have these beliefs. We tend to have an inherent sense of self-worth as to how much we feel we deserve in terms of money, or in terms of salary, or you know in terms of our station in life, and all these things. And it's there's nothing quite like it, really, in terms of having so many beliefs about stuff, about deserving, about not deserving, about whether you're worthy of having it. um it has been, and it's one of the key things, one of the key lessons I'm here to learn in this lifetime, I've realized, is to do with money, because in past life, I have done some terrible things to earn money, and I'm still carrying the burden of that and having to work through it. And feel really that is really tainted in some way. And I sort of know what those things are, and I'm working through them. Um, but it can carry on through many lifetimes if you're not careful. And we have so many hang-ups about it. It's quite
Yeah.
remarkable.
And the interesting thing is, I mean, when you look at the mechanics of money, money is actually infinite. It's an
Mm,
idea, right? And if you
mm,
can just tap into that, I think that's
yeah,
you know, you'll
it's
get some.
we only got to look at how the whole system is set up, and the fact that people just print money when they need any government. I think it's all a house of cards, which could come tumbling down at any moment. Um, yeah, and the fact that there's been rampant inflation over the last few years, and we've all lost 25% of our net worth effectively. It's just
Hmm.
quite remarkable how it can come and go.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
you know, yeah,
Well,
it's
so I mean, that's one thing that could hang people up. So what are some other things that could hang people up? I think one of them is like events that have gone on in your life, right?
Mm.
Especially during childhood. So maybe you could talk about that a little bit.
Well, yeah, it's a really useful exercise to dig down into what your limiting beliefs are about money, and write them all down.
Mm,
And you know, um, there's various ways of doing that, but you can just ask yourself, what would I need to believe in order to behave like this? Or what am I so afraid that will happen if this is true or this isn't true? And just start writing them down. How much money is too much?
mm,
Do you deserve to have money? Are you worthy? Just ask yourself these questions. And if you're sort of, centered and tuned in, there'll be an emotional response. Oh, do I deserve to have money? And I'm not just going to do this now because I always get curious. do I deserve to have money? You know, I get a strong emotional hit on that because I know why it is because there's something I'm working on at the moment to do with it. Um, but yeah, you know, that's all you need to do, and yet that gives you a clue, and then you got to think, okay, where does that come from? And there's various
Mm,
techniques you can use to try and find how old you can even ask yourself, how old am I? How old am I with this feeling? And you know, what happened at that time? And you know, all that
Yeah,
kind
a
of thing.
recent one that came up for me was this kid in elementary school. He punched me in the face, and I got really mad at myself for not like punching him back, right? And that was something that was just latent under the surface and kind of just gnawing at me in
Hmm.
terms of like self-worth. So I think that's something that, yeah, like you said, do these exercises and see what
Mm,
comes up. It something might not necessarily come up, but
mm.
it's definitely worth looking at, right?
Yeah, I mean, different people are sort of wired differently. For me, it's I'm I'm a kinesthetic, so very much it's all about the emotions and things. So, you know, if I ask myself, how do I feel about something, you know, or what do I think about something, or my response is always a feeling. Whereas some other people might get a visual things or they might hear something, but you know, it's worth just sitting quietly, ask yourself, you know, what is my response to this question about
Hmm.
do I deserve to have money? Am I worthy? Am I good enough? I'm not being good enough. It's a classic. I mean, everyone feels not good enough. It's quite remarkable. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down a lot to the societal programming, right? Like
Mm,
you're not good enough, you're not good enough. So, you mentioned like past lives, how that
mm,
can affect your current life. So that one is a little bit tougher, in my opinion, to get to. So how do
it
you
is.
recommend like going about
Yes.
that?
I mean, and some people don't even believe in them, and that's fine. You know,
Yeah.
they don't have to. Um, and you know, they're hidden from us for a reason because otherwise you'd be overwhelmed by the
Yeah.
stuff. But you know, if once you start doing the clearing work and you're really committed to it wholeheartedly, then you find, you know, you're digging down stuff, and then you find stuff, and you sort of, you know, I have a system where I can ask myself, how old am I when this
Mm,
happened? You know, and sometimes it's not in this lifetime is the answer I get. And you know, people say, oh yeah, you're just making it up, you know, you know, it's just your imagination. But I have one of the strongest emotional releases I have ever had in my entire therapeutic journey, was one where when I got what it was, God, I'm just thinking because as I say this, I'm still getting a little hint of it, which means there's something I haven't quite resolved. So that's always
mm,
useful. Um, it was, you know, once I got what it was, I wept uncontrollably for 10 minutes straight, which is, you know, quite an achievement in itself to cry for that
yeah,
length of
physical
time.
achievement.
Um, and the thing was, it wasn't in this lifetime at all. I can tell you what it was. I was, and I still feel emotional as I say this, which is, as I say, it's a very useful pointer to me because it means there's more to do. I was looking at a shipwreck. I was on this ship, and I was floating on a bit of flot, whatever it's called, a bit of wood that's there, looking at this devastation, and there was almost nothing to be seen. And my wife and children nowhere to be seen, and I had lost them completely in just in this moment of, well, I don't know what had happened in the shipwreck, but it just, you know, completely gone. Um, and the sense of loss to do with that was quite remarkable, you know, and you know, it didn't even happen in this lifetime. So it can be really powerful stuff. So yeah, it takes a bit more. It's harder to get to, obviously,
Hmm.
all this stuff, and sometimes you don't need to get to it. I mean, you can if you work with some people, you know, they work on a soul level. They'll say, okay, do you actually need to know the details of this, or are you happy for us to clear this? And you know,
Hmm.
sometimes the soul will say yes, in which case, fine, you just, you know, get rid of it, sort of thing. But sometimes there's stuff you need, some lessons you need to learn, you know, and then you do need to know at least a certain amount about it.
Yeah, yeah. I think yeah, working with a therapist or something really helps with that one. I
Mm.
mean, for me, like plant medicine has been really huge with clearing that for me. And if anybody
Right, what's been
listening,
huge?
plant medicine,
All right. Apartment. All right. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I mean, if anybody doesn't believe in past lives, then you can look at the University of Virginia studies, right? They studied over 2,000 kids who claimed to have past lives, and the stuff the kids came up with was, there's no way they could have known about that stuff.
Mm,
So
mm.
look into that. What about this idea that like there's no such thing really as a past life or a future life? It's all happening at the same time.
The eternal now.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's a real that's a crazy one to get your head around. Um, um, well, I mean, there are past lives and future lives in the sense that there is a progression of your soul through some journey. Now people who are wiser than me say that, okay, but it is all happening now, and it's not like progression of time is an illusion where we just choose to look at a different aspect of what's going on now rather than experiencing it all in one moment, just because
Mhm.
otherwise it'd be overwhelming. But it's impossible for us really to understand that. But I'll tell you something which is I find quite useful is that the more I do all this stuff and the more I let go and accept and allow things to happen, all sorts of crazy coincidences and things start to happen in my life. I'm just
Yeah.
constantly to the point I now assume that if something's meant to be, it'll happen when it needs to happen, and I don't need to worry about it because I know it's going to happen. And you think, well, how can all that be? Because some of these things are requiring other people to do certain things at certain times. That person has to ring me up at that moment for that to happen, or something something should have happened in the past that which led to this, to which all these things happen. And where I think about it is it's like a whole sandwich of all these different slices in time. But because they're all there, it's almost like you're sort of twisting little bits like this and manipulating every slice. So they all
Mhm.
line up just the right perfect amount so that whatever you need in the sort of slice you're in all happens. And it's all, it can only happen if there's no such thing as time and you can change the past and the future right
Mhm.
now to make whatever happening in the present happening. And of course, it doesn't make any sense logically because we're not really wired to do that. But you do get senses of it. When the more you practice letting go and just being in the present moment, the more you get a sense of there's no time really, and it's all just flowing. And and you have glimpses of the eternal now. And I've had moments where I've been practicing the acceptance thing as I said, and I'm accepting something really unpleasant that's going on in my life at the moment. And I just get a sense, well, I can feel it now as I say this, just get a sense of the utter perfection of everything right now and the utter perfection of this horrible thing, supposedly,
Mhm.
and I wouldn't want it any other way. And that is so powerful because nothing's going to dissolve something like accepting it to the point of seeing its perfection, you know, and that can only happen in the now. It can't happen anywhere. You can't think your way into doing that. It's just about being there and letting it happen.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it really speaks to the idea of like ultimate detachment, right? I think that's kind of like what we're working on here, just detaching from
Yeah, well,
as many things as possible, right?
yes, it is. It's a funny one because it is about complete detachment from wanting things to be a certain way. But there is also the the co-creation side of things where you create stuff. So I mean, the way I typically, like when I start any of my healing sessions, right? And I typically I do this remotely, and I tune into someone, and I usually get given a bunch of emotions, which is what I need to work on for them for this time. So the first thing I always do is accept unconditionally these feelings exactly as they are right now and acknowledge that they are perfect.
Mm.
So I say, these feelings, this is perfect. And I now choose to, to make it different. And that's the thing. The attachment, and I wonder about Buddhism and Zen, all this kind of thing, which is all about complete detachment and just being in the now, which is wonderful. But you're missing out on the co-creation side. And I
Mm.
don't
Mhm.
pretend to know enough about Buddhism to know whether that's entirely true or whether it's a co-creation side. But it's a sort of, I accept this completely, and I now say thank you for this new reality. And
Hmm. Hmm.
again, it's a paradox, like all the best things. But
Yeah.
that is sort of how it works for me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a great point. That's a great point. Um, yeah. Are there any other things that might be stopping people psychologically that you could think of that they could look at?
Um, well, it all, as I said, all boils down to you starting your journey of exploration.
Hmm.
And the more baggage you clear, the more space you create within you for the magic to happen and for good things to flow into you. Um, and we're so full of limiting beliefs which will stop all this happening, will stop our manifestations, or stop us accepting stuff. But I remember it saying in conversations with God that the universe is speaking to you constantly, all the time, every moment. It's just that we're so surrounded by this cloud of shit going on around us that it never gets a chance to get through. But the more you start to work on that and to clear the stuff, the more it gives the space and the clarity for stuff to come through. And as I said, for me, it's just all the time. If I want any guidance, I usually just open up my Instagram reel, and within a few swipes, I've got the perfect message which is really right in my face, and it's quite remarkable. Or someone will say something, or I just sometimes I just get a thought popped into my head. Oh, where'd that come from? And it's all this wisdom is there for receiving. You're just gonna make the space for it.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. The best analogy I've seen is like you have a ship, a boat, and you have all these what they call them samsaras, right? In yeah, in India, like so they're like anchors weighing your boat down, and every time you can release one of those, your boat sails a little bit faster, a little bit smoother.
That's a
So
nice metaphor. Yeah.
yeah, so I think
Mm.
that's one of the biggest keys to life, in my opinion.
Mm. Just clear your stuff, and everything else will sort itself out.
Yeah. All right, well, that's a good place to end, I think. Thanks,
I
Adam.
think so. Yes, that's great. Nice talking to you, Hugh.
You too.
Okay, bye.